Have you ever noticed how strange peace can sometimes feel? Not the idea of peace. Most people say they want peace. They say they want calm. They say they want life to slow down. But when life finally becomes quiet, something unexpected can happen. The mind doesn't always relax. Instead, it starts searching for the next problem, the next responsibility, the next thing that might go wrong. For some people, calm moments can feel unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. And if you've ever experienced that feeling, you may have wondered why. Why would peace feel strange? Why would a quiet moment make the mind restless? Sometimes the body sits down, but the mind keeps moving. You finally have a moment where nothing urgent needs your attention. No problem needs solving. No one needs help. Nothing requires immediate action. And yet part of the mind still feels uneasy. A quiet voice may appear saying, "You should probably be doing something." This experience confuses many people because peace should feel good. But the answer to why it sometimes doesn't often has less to do with the present moment and much more to do with patterns the brain learned in the past. Sometimes peace feels unfamiliar because the mind has spent so much time preparing for the next challenge. For people who have lived with constant responsibility, the brain becomes used to movement, used to thinking ahead, used to watching carefully for what might happen next. So when the environment finally becomes quiet, the mind doesn't immediately know how to respond. Instead of relaxing, it keeps looking for something to do, something to solve, something to prepare for. And that is often when people realize something surprising. They have been living in survival mode for much longer than they realized. Human beings are incredibly adaptable. Whatever environment we spend enough time in eventually begins to feel normal. If someone grows up in a peaceful environment, calm becomes familiar. But if someone grows up in an environment where there is tension, unpredictability, or constant responsibility, the brain adapts to that instead. The mind becomes used to activity, used to problem solving, used to watching for what might happen next. And over time, the brain quietly learns something important. Staying alert helps you stay prepared. When chaos becomes familiar, the brain begins treating it as normal. The mind adapts to the rhythm of that environment. If things were often unpredictable, the brain learns to expect unpredictability. If emotions around you were intense or unstable, the brain learns to stay alert. In many ways, this ability to adapt is a strength. It helps people navigate difficult environments. It helps them stay aware of situations that might require quick decisions. But when life finally becomes calmer, the brain may still be operating with the same old instructions. Stay alert. Watch carefully. Be ready. Even when those instructions are no longer necessary. For people who have spent years managing responsibilities or navigating emotional tension, the brain becomes very good at scanning the environment. It begins noticing small details, changes in tone, changes in mood, signs that something might be about to happen. This kind of awareness can be helpful. It allows someone to anticipate problems and respond quickly. But it can also create a habit of constant alertness. The mind becomes so used to watching for problems that it keeps scanning even when nothing is wrong. Over time, this scanning becomes automatic. A person may walk into a room and instantly notice everyone's mood. They may notice if someone seems irritated. They may notice tension before anyone else says a word. This kind of awareness often develops in people who spent years trying to keep things stable around them, trying to prevent conflict, trying to understand what others might be feeling. And although this awareness can make someone deeply empathetic, it can also make the mind very busy because the brain keeps collecting emotional information even when the situation does not require it. The body itself also learns from experience. Our nervous system is designed to adapt to the environments we live in. When someone spends long periods of time dealing with stress or responsibility, their nervous system becomes used to operating at a higher level of alertness. Their body becomes comfortable with movement, with action, with solving problems. And when life finally slows down, the nervous system may not immediately recognize the calm as safe. Instead, it may interpret stillness as unfamiliar. The mind may begin searching for something to do, something to organize, something to fix, not because anything is actually wrong, but because the nervous system has been trained to stay active. The nervous system does not immediately change simply because life becomes calmer. It remembers the environments it adapted to, and learning to relax that system often requires patience, just like muscles need time to loosen after being tense for too long. Another thing that can happen in calm moments is that the mind begins creating its own activity. If there are no immediate problems to solve, the brain may begin replaying past situations, conversations, and decisions. Moments where things could have gone differently. Sometimes the mind starts imagining future problems. What if something goes wrong? What if someone becomes upset? What if something unexpected happens? The brain has one primary job: to keep us safe. And one way it tries to do that is by predicting potential problems before they happen. For people who have lived through stressful or demanding situations, the brain becomes very skilled at imagining possibilities. Sometimes that skill can turn into overthinking. Even though none of those scenarios are happening in the present moment, the brain continues working as if they might. For someone who has spent years living in motion, calm can feel unfamiliar at first, almost like entering a quiet room after standing in a noisy place for a long time. At first, the silence feels strange. The mind keeps expecting noise. But over time, the body begins adjusting. The quiet starts to feel natural. The same thing can happen with emotional calm. When someone begins experience more peace in their life, their nervous system may need time to adjust. Peace is not something that always feels comfortable immediately. Sometimes it is something the mind has to learn again. Many people who struggle with peace have also spent years feeling responsible for others, responsible for solving problems, responsible for keeping situations stable, responsible for helping everyone around them. When someone has carried that role for a long time, stepping away from it can feel uncomfortable because responsibility has become familiar. Being the one who fixes things has become part of how they see themselves. But letting go of constant responsibility can create space. Space for rest. Space for calm. Space for a life that does not require constant effort. Learning to feel comfortable with peace often happens gradually. It begins with allowing small moments of calm without immediately filling them with activity. Allowing silence, allowing rest, allowing time where nothing needs to be solved. Each time the mind experiences calm without danger, it learns something new. Stillness is safe. Quiet is safe. Nothing terrible happened when things slowed down. Over time, the nervous system begins adjusting, and the mind slowly learns how to relax again. Life was never meant to be constant motion. It was always meant to include effort and rest, activity and stillness, focus and recovery. When someone begins allowing both parts of that rhythm something interesting happens. They start experiencing moments of clarity, moments where the mind is no longer racing, moments where they can simply exist without pressure. And those moments often become the beginning of real peace. If peace has ever felt uncomfortable to you, it does not mean something is wrong. It simply means your mind may have spent a long time learning how to manage responsibility and stay alert. But the mind is also capable of learning something new. It can learn that calm is safe. It can learn that stillness does not mean something bad is about to happen. And it can learn that peace is not something to fear. It is something to grow into. With time, patience, and small moments of quiet, the mind begins adjusting. And what once felt unfamiliar can slowly become something deeply comforting, something that no longer feels strange, but finally feels like home.